total destruction.
Are they all destroyed?
Blast them to bits.
Let's get on with it!
ROBOTECH, tonight at 3:15. Oh, tune up.
The SDF-1 was settling into its new orbital pattern around the Earth, and the people of Macross City were just settling into their new routine and their new lives. This included Minmay, whom we catch in a moment of reflection on her life, and not so much at all she'd gained with her success, more like all she'd possibly lost. Having taken the Macross world by storm with her music, she was now set to conquer the silver screen. Her alone time with her thoughts were interrupted by her manager, Vance Hasselwood, who had been celebrating her movie's premiere harder than anyone else at the party already. He excused his excessiveness by stating just how much money and popularity he and his star had now attained, telling her she could practically ask for anything she wanted at this point. She confirmed with him that he truly meant anything, and he assumes she means clothing, possessions, maybe a few trucks to haul away all the money they'd be making. But all she truly wanted was a seat reservation at the movie premiere for a special guest, front row and center. Vance actually wonders if he even can provide such a thing on such short notice. She reminds him he said anything, and he figures he can at least inquire about it.
I wish I could be there to see the expression on Rick's face when I tell him.
Oh, Minmay, I've been looking all over for you. Hello, darling. Wonderful party. Having a good... Oh! Excuse me, how clumsy. I could just die. I must have slipped on an ice cube. Did I get any on your dress?
No.
And it's such a quaint little dress, so full of charm. Lovely, dear. Did you make it yourself?
Jan Morris's jealousy couldn't be more transparent. Minmay had certainly been disillusioned by that former star, and one wonders if Minmay didn't privately promise herself to never turn into such a creature. Fortunately for her, Jan Morris is called away by what I can only assume is her sugar daddy. Once he notices it was Minmay that Jan was talking to, he lights up at the opportunity to meet her, but Ms. Morris deflects him away, having already done her best to ruin Minmay's night. Just as Minmay wonders if she shouldn't hire some security to keep such encounters away from her, Lynn Kyle brings her news that Vance has indeed secured her an extra VIP seat for whomever her special guest was. She is elated by this. Rick did still mean a lot to her, and somewhere inside she still recognized that his support, friendship, and his bravery had made all of this life possible for her. She knew they'd grown apart, and she wasn't exactly sure what happened that time she called him from the hospital, but she wanted to make up for her, for them, drifting apart. Surely this gesture would help mend fences between them. Kyle is just glad to see her smiling and excited, but reminds her of their early morning tomorrow, suggesting it was time for her to turn in. At the military base on the ship, it was much less of a party, with one lowly crewman who'd pulled the night shift manning the front desk, reading a magazine as he absent-mindedly answered the phone. He might have perked up if he'd realized the famous LYNN MINMEI was on the other end of the call.
Yes, I'm trying to get in touch with Lieutenant Rick Hunter. Can I speak to him, please?
Lieutenant Hunter? Just a minute. He's on duty right now. He's guarding the reconnaissance vehicles.
When will he be coming back, please? It's very important.
I can't say.
All right, could you please tell him that seat number A5 has been reserved in his name for the first showing of the film Small White Dragon tomorrow night?
That's A5. And who may I say is calling him?
Just tell him it's his little lost friend.
He'll know who I mean if I tell him that?
Yes, he will. I've got to go now, thank you.
Okay, I'll give him the message.
Oh, brother, I hope Rick gets the word. That boy didn't sound too bright. I wonder what kind of people they're taking in the military these days.
I'm exhausted. I can hardly wait to hit the sack. I'm back.
Right. Oh, Lieutenant Hunter.
What?
Sir, you got a phone call from somebody about an hour and a half ago.
Who'd be calling me this late?
I don't know, but she said I should tell you it was your little lost friend.
Really? Well, all right.
I believe she mentioned a movie or something? Oh well, he'll find out for himself, I guess.
It's funny that Rick actually did realize whom the crewman was talking about. If only he'd stuck around to get the rest of the message. He tries getting a hold of her at the hotel, but the phone stops ringing in her room just as she comes back into it from talking with her manager. Rick racks his brain trying to figure out what she might have wanted, but decides it was probably just to remind him of the movie premiere. He might have skipped it altogether, but if she was nice enough to want to make sure he was there, he guessed he should at least show up. The next morning, a certain infiltrator, who had a decent sense of style for Micronian apparel, better than the last 3 infiltrators anyway, searched the streets of Macross City for a certain someone who had humiliated her in battle. A humiliation she aimed to return by assassinating whoever that pilot had been. Seeing a crowd of people, MIRIYA can only assume they must all be there to honor her foe for his battle prowess and heroism. And this crowd she sees is only a fraction of the line.
What? Shooting me down must have been a great achievement for him to be honored by so many.
MIRIYA's attention is turned to the crowd reacting as a car pulls up, unloading a pair of Micronians she'd seen around on their many monitor instruments throughout the city on this ship. No doubt they were high-ranking generals of some kind. Perhaps they knew where her pilot nemesis was. MIRIYA determines to follow this crowd to find him. And it turns out she isn't far off. Max is indeed inside with one of his Skull Squadron co-pilots, who remarked how pretty Minmay was in real life. Max had to admit it was true, though he wasn't quite as starstruck by her, since after all they had been friends even before Miss Macross. He liked her all the same though, and didn't even brag to his buddy that he was an old friend of the ship's most popular idol. By some absolute twist of fate, MIRIYA found a spot in the crowd right behind the man she sought to kill, both of them none the wiser. As the host of the evening's festivities came on stage, we see Rick did make it to the premiere and is initially as amped as anyone for it. The host introduces Minmay and Kyle to the audience, and Minmay immediately glances at the seat she'd specially reserved for Rick, up front next to Aunt Lena. She couldn't help but be hurt that he hadn't come, feeling truly rejected by her friend. Minmay and Kyle have a quick back and forth with the host about how proud of the film they are, and Rick overhears some ladies behind him talking about how cute they think Kyle is, and mentions some of the rumors that Minmay and Kyle are now a romantic item. He'd had his own suspicions, but it was weird to hear others talking about them like this. To open the movie, Minmay sings a song that leads to the opening fanfare of the film, which turns out to be a fantasy film set in ancient Asia, the best way to exploit Kyle's amazing kung fu talents. The ZENTRAEDI, meanwhile, had become very proficient at intercepting certain widely broadcast transmissions from the Micronian battle fortress. They didn't understand why these transmissions weren't even encoded, not understanding that it was always just TV and movie entertainment. Britai and Exodor determined this must be some historical battle record, Britai even being somewhat impressed with this long-haired Micronian's primitive fighting style. MIRIYA is very impressed with Kyle's moves, though, even speculating he must be the great soldier who beat her in battle. As Minmay comes on screen, her ever-growing ZENTRAEDI fan club aboard Britai's ship is absolutely enthralled with seeing her in action.
We were hanging out with the girl all the time.
In fact, the 3 of us all became her close personal friends for a while.
Yeah? Hey, guys, look at that.
Did you see what he just did? What was that?
I wonder if that is the legendary force we have heard they possess.
It's a death ray. Our soldiers cannot win against such a great force as this.
This may help to explain why they possess such an incredible energy barrier.
We must report this information immediately to Commander-in-Chief Dolza.
Oh, my darling, I'm here. Are you all right? Speak to me. I was afraid I'd lost you.
Sorry.
Strange.
I've never seen anything like it.
It's weird. Why do they do that?
I'm amazed they seem to be enjoying it.
Yeah, something makes them do that all the time. It's required.
They make their
Yep.
people press their lips together?
Yeah, it happened every day. That's fantastic. I wouldn't have thought you could stand it. Did they force you to do such a thing with this girl?
Yep, they sure did.
Yep, many times.
My lips got sore from always being pressed.
Ha! These freaking liars. Naturally, Rick was having a hard time watching the romantic scenes between Minmay and Kyle, excusing himself in a fit of disgust and despair out to the lobby. Tripping in his hurry, he braced himself for a fall, his hand's unfortunate placement landing square on the hind end of none other than Lisa. She was shocked, and he was just relieved. Relieved that it was only her.
Excuse me, can I get through here, please? Excuse me. Excuse me, ma'am. I'm very sorry. Lieutenant Commander. I am sorry. I guess I must have tripped or something.
And I just happened to be within reach. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's it exactly. I can't think of another reason why anyone would want to touch you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's telling him. You don't have to put up with that and make him shove you again.
Have it.
We'd better continue this discussion elsewhere.
Take him away, sister.
I always love the comments by the spectators as Lisa drags Rick to a less public spot. As she starts coyly asking, almost teasing him about this incident, asking what he was even doing walking out in the middle of the film, the alarms of battle echo throughout the city. They hear Kim's voice warning of an impending ship transformation, the citizens scattering to wherever the nearest shelters were. Rick tries to get Lisa to head to a shelter with him, but she argues that they need to get back to the base. In their hesitation, the ship begins to change and conform around them as they brace for the ride. Minmay leads Kyle down some stairs in the theater, heading to their own shelter, but it's too late. The ground at the bottom opens, with Minmay falling in. Kyle's kung fu reflexes grab her in the nick of time, and as he sets himself to pull her up, she is reminded of Rick and the similar situation he rescued her from that one time. Why were her emotions and thoughts in such flux recently when it came to Rick Hunter? Kyle exerts himself pulling her to safety, and she cries as she clings to him. He comforts her, blaming the army for not giving them enough time to evacuate appropriately. But it seems to me her tears weren't for her close call with death, but for her recent confusion over her feelings for Rick. Max and his buddy were hanging out in the theater's designated shelter, lamenting this enemy attack that interrupted their movie. An attractive green-haired woman stalks by, with a look of intensity in her darting eyes. And Max is immediately smitten by this random passerby, smiling at her as she walks away. Rick and Lisa climb about, looking for a shelter or a way back to base, either one. Rick brags that his top-notch instincts will lead them out of this situation, even though we all know he failed to lead he and Minmay to safety for 2 whole weeks in this very ship. Hitting a dead end, they panic as they are nearly crushed by a shifting piece of the city. They're alive, but definitely now trapped. Naturally, these two begin fighting, arguing whose fault this is as they point fingers, literally. But Rick gives up rather quickly, settling into their new predicament. Lisa figures she may as well sit and wait it out as well, and from the opposite side of their oubliette, Lisa begins commenting on the sounds of battle rumbling through the ship, but Rick is unmoving with any reaction at all to her attempt at conversation. As she admits his silence is greatly bothering her, he finally responds, amazed to see her admit such an insecurity. She actually does show her softer side to him, it coming more easily to her these days, at least with him. He appreciates that, and it's kinda cute as they start talking over each other for a second. He decides maybe they can talk about, well, lots of stuff. Rick wonders how Max is doing in the battle outside, unaware that he was at the movie premiere too, and Lisa admits the bridge has been watching him and are amazed at his absolutely perfect flight judgment, reaction times, and remarkable technique. Rick fully admits Max is far more talented than even himself. I mean, Rick isn't exactly one to brag, but has been a little boastful from time to time. He does worry that anyone would praise Max enough that he may one day make the mistake that he thinks he's better than his opponent, though he admits that such a thing may not happen to a humble dude like Max. Lisa is impressed at this maturity she's hearing in Lieutenant Hunter and tells him as much. Elsewhere on the ship at that moment, Max has a premonition someone somewhere is talking about him, sneezing being a classic trope of such things in anime. Rick asks Lisa why Captain Gloval would order a ship transformation without giving much time to evacuate to shelters. Lisa admits it's the bridge officer who makes that call in a case like this, who, in Lisa's absence, is Sammy. Sammy is doing her absolute best, but finds her own inexperience frustrating not only to herself, but the flight groups.
No, Pearl Squadron was supposed to move their planes to intermediate level C4, not B block on the upper flight deck.
Bridge, we don't understand your instructions.
Oh, you don't? Oh, please, Commander Hayes, get back home soon.
Rick and Lisa start reminiscing about their adventure being trapped on the ZENTRAEDI ship, traveling across the galaxy, being questioned by their leader, and escaping in that battleoid Max had dressed up like a ZENTRAEDI. Man, how wild was all that? Lisa realizes she's not as scared now as she was then, since they are just trapped on their own ship, even if it was built by the aliens. As they wait out the battle, Rick postulates on why the ZENTRAEDI seem to constantly engage in these skirmishes and pull back in retreat. Lisa has been theorizing that there must be certain warring camps within the enemy ranks, one that wants to capture the SDF-1 and one that wants to destroy it. Their command organization, she proposes, must be in constant struggle for power and posturing with one another. Rick wonders what will happen when one camp wins this tug-of-war, and Lisa figures either mankind will be left alone or destroyed. They must have been trapped there for quite a while, as Rick finally grows frustrated, calling out for help. This startles Lisa and only results in a petite cola machine, almost mocking Rick in its useless attempt to make a sail, ridiculously unable to help. As Lisa gets Rick to settle down, it's hard not to notice just how closely they're sitting now, considering they started in this enclosure on opposite sides of it.
So what made you decide to come downtown and hang around the theater?
Huh? Why did you suddenly think of that?
I don't know, I just remembered, so I asked. Why, is there a problem? If the subject's too personal to talk about, it's okay with me.
I don't mind talking about it. I just went to see the movie like everybody else on the ship.
I'm surprised you fought those crowds. Were you able to get in for the start of the film?
The manager knew my name. I was sitting by the rear exit because I couldn't make it down there to pick up my ticket in time.
Wow, it's hard to imagine someone like you going to a movie.
Does it surprise you to discover I like to go out?
I guess I always pictured you as a grouchy old lady.
Well, you're a dope.
But sometimes I'm smart. You wanted to see this movie very badly, even though it was about kung fu. Fess up, there was somebody in that movie you were attracted to.
Nope, you've got it all wrong.
Oh yeah? You went to the trouble of reserving a ticket and fighting those crowds just to see a film starring Minmay? I don't think you're that interested in her. No, it has to be Kyle. I'm right, aren't I? Aren't I?
No, don't push me. And besides, aren't you supposed to be in love with Minmay? Well, aren't you? Huh?
Yes. Minmay. It feels like 10 years ago. Oh, we'll get out of here, believe me, and I'll always take care of you.
Will you kiss me?
Sure, if you want.
I'm sorry, Lieutenant Hunter. I was just trying to get you to stop making fun of me. I didn't mean to bring up any bad memories. I know just what that feels like.
You mean you left the theater for the same reason I did? You couldn't stand to see the person you're in love with kissing someone else. What a joke. Both of us running out of the building at the same time. And how could you fall in love with such an anti-military jerk?
He looks exactly like the guy I was in love with when I was a lot younger. He had to go away and then he died before we had a chance to get married. Sometimes during the day or at night, his face comes back to haunt me and I just can't bear it.
You like a handkerchief?
Thank you. So you can see why I was so overcome when I first saw Kyle. He looked so much like this man whose memory I carry with me. It was like he'd come back to life again.
Yes, ma'am. I suppose being in love is the only thing that helps put any meaning in our lives.
Yes, I think you're right.
The bridge crew announce to each other the end of the battle, and Claudia gives much encouragement to the flustered Sammy. Who knows? With a little more experience, she may make captain before too long.
You know, I feel as helpless as a caged animal.
I know, Mr. and Mrs. Monkey, watching the people go by.
I'm glad I'm here with you.
You're not so bad yourself.
Yeah?
Yeah. After today, I have the feeling I could get to like you.
That's funny, because I was thinking exactly the same thing.
Attention, please. The enemy attack has ended. We will now be returning the ship to its normal mode of operation.
Well, I'm afraid it's time to go back to reality.
I'd better get back to the bridge. The transformation is over.
I suppose, but let's not rush, okay?
It looks like the party is over in town, as Lisa figures everyone went home from the premiere already. As they walk, that same darn vending machine persistently pursues them, and Rick decides to give in, figuring he'd buy Lisa a drink. But she stops him, only to say that commanders make more than lieutenants, and this one's on her. He relents, but warns her that he intends to buy her dinner sometime soon. As he hands her the soda, he alarmingly pulls her behind the machine, warning her she may not want to see what he just did. Well, she looks anyway, and they watch as Kyle and Minmay happily enter the hotel across the street together. Of course, this stirs up all the upset feelings they both had for those two, nearly spoiling the mood. But Lisa is determined not to let this new special closeness with Rick be spoiled.
We're almost there.
Yes, I guess I should be going. I'd better get back to the barracks before they think I've gone and jumped ship.
Rick, do you have to run off so soon? I'm sure they wouldn't mind if they knew you were with another officer. Anyway, I'd like for you to stay.
Well, I'd really like that.
As they walk with each other, enjoying the quiet evening in the streets of Macross, broken by the transformation, the ache they both feel in their hearts for their unrequited loves begin to mend, as they find new hope, solace, and possibly even love with each other.